One of the things they've done, not only did I give the biggest tax cut in history.
Dude, you didn't. Move on. Tell it. He asked you what you would do. So if your answer is, I would give another tax cut, then you have to let that be part of your plan and then explain where it comes from, what programs disappear because of it, where you would take it from, and how it would even affect gas prices.
Also gave the biggest by far regulation cuts. They're putting all these regulations back.
Nobody asked you about regulations, shithead. How would you lower gas prices? Specifically, you're in office today. What the fuck?
What's happening is prices are going up and we're not able to compete with other countries because they don't have the regulations that I got rid of.
Huh? You think our gas prices are going up because of regulations? I mean, obviously, part of being able to solve a problem is understanding the cause of the actual problem. I've noticed, Dave, you've been having some heart palpitations. Now, I mean, we can all see there's a railroad spike in your chest, but let me ask you this. How are your feet?
More regulations than any president in the history of our country.
Not true.
And, I say that at rallies. I say it, and the press never questions me because you know what? They can't.
No, I don't qualify necessarily as a press, although I do have a radio show on Saturdays that's spectacular if you feel like checking it out. The House Park Radio program, mega worldwide on WCPT Radio in Chicago, and I live stream it here. So Saturday mornings, have a cup of coffee, come see me. So I guess on one day a week, I qualify as the press, and I call bullshit on it all the time. Most of the time, people don't call bullshit on it because they don't consider it a major thing and they just let it slide because you have so many other lies. They're addressing the bigger ones in this gish gallop of bullshit.
It's true. I got rid of so many regulations. I think it was more important than the tax cuts, actually. If you ask the leaders of big business, it was more important than the tax.
Oh, you mean the big woke corporations that the Democrats have control over?
We got rid of regulations and everything was good. They're putting the regulations back. They just disapproved Anwar.
They just disapproved Anwar. We weren't drilling in Anwar. None of that was working its way into the system. We didn't shut off a spigot from Alaska all of a sudden and prices went up. So again, how the fuck would you solve it?
Trying to get it before Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan couldn't do it. I got it done. It's a big...
Yeah. Ronald Reagan couldn't get us to destroy the Alaskan wildlife refuge and the areas around it for oil that we didn't need. But you could until you couldn't.
Energy source probably in the world in Alaska. Right. They just ended it.
Yeah. Again, zero effect on gas prices.
Alaska should never vote for a Democrat or Murkowski, by the way, which is the same thing as a Democrat. Alaska.
We'll get to the rhinos.
What they did. They did.
Oh, yeah. Get into the rhinos.
Rhinos are actually rhinos are worse in many ways than the Democrats.
Totally worse than yes, absolutely. I mean, finally, go after the other Republicans. Oh, terrible. I'll try not to interrupt you, please.
The Democrats, at least you know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Right. You got us to oil independency. Just the other day, we heard Mr. Biden telling OPEC to start making.
Can you believe it?
More fuel for us.
It's not for us. It's for Europe. And if Europe needs more oil, they will buy it from our providers. And our providers, rather than selling it to us at a lower price, will sell it where they can get the most money for it. And if OPEC is underproducing, which is normally where Europe gets its oil from, along with Russia, and this was the problem when Saudi Arabia and Russia were just producing too much, and that drove the price down to a magical negative 32, which Trump could have filled our strategic reserves, and they would have paid us to fill our strategic reserves, and he missed that deal. Art of the deal, really. Okay. But the Europeans get a lot of theirs from over there. We don't anymore. But if all the oil companies that do produce in the United States can sell it in Europe for a higher price, you think they're going to sell it to us out of patriotism?
Why do we need that? We don't. What would be in their mindset, and why in the hell would you stop the Keystone pipeline, cost thousands of jobs, low energy prices?
because it's Canadian shale oil. It's not our oil. It goes straight to market. They sell it at market prices. We don't get like a deal because of it. And if it ruptures, it fills our aquifers where our precious water is with oil and benzene and petroleum byproducts, which are not good to drink, for the record, for anybody who's a big ivermectin fan.
And then start buying it again from foreign nations. This
And
makes no
you've
sense.
heard it, I hate to say it because everybody, but I stopped the Russian pipeline and started Keystone. He did the opposite. He let Russia build that pipeline, the biggest pipeline in the world, by the way, covers Europe, thing called Europe, Germany
Yeah, it's a thing called Europe.
in particular. And he ended 48,000
Germany in particular, mostly Germany.
jobs, and that's the real number, 48,000 jobs in Keystone. And those people are devastated. I don't know if you've seen them or interviewed them. They're devastated.
Yeah, a lot of them are going to get jobs because of the new infrastructure plan. If Republicans really cared about those Keystone Pipeline jobs, they would pass elements of and sign off on which, I mean, 60 some odd % of Republicans like the infrastructure deal. So I don't know why any of them, never mind.
Pipeline workers and all of the other jobs that go along with
Is
it.
that a virtue signal to the environmentalists, or why would you do that?
I think he
It
did
makes no
that
sense.
to get on side of the radical left because for whatever reason they don't like pipelines, even though a pipeline is far better than trucking it and putting it on.
Well, by the way, Canada can get their shale oil to market by driving it across their own fucking country. They have 2 coasts. They don't have to send it through the United States to the Gulf.
Rail.
Safer.
I think he did it really because of the radical left. I think they're doing a lot of things. I just heard a statistic on
Oh,
one of
this will be good. He's just heard a statistic. I can't wait.
your shows today. It's very interesting that we have less pollution in the air during the pandemic when everything was shut down to a large extent.
Right.
There's less pollution. There was no more. In other words, you would think that it would have gone down, up, some. Nothing
It barely
happened.
changed. I did see
If
that.
anything, it got better. It got better. And we're talking about carbon in the air. It got better. Now, why would that be? You know, what's going on? The numbers.
Wait a minute. Yes, there was less pollution in the air. And if you're measuring it, it stacks over time before it can be processed. A lot of it goes, the trees and the ocean will absorb some carbon dioxide and the like. And so last year's impacts will be felt for this year and a little into the future. But once things start up again, it will be a while before the number goes up to reach those. I mean, really?
Better. They are using the environment to destroy our country. When I look
Yeah, it's terrible. They're using the environment to destroy our country.
at windmills over these gorgeous fields, and now you look at windmills, and after 8 or 9 years, they start to rot and to rust.
Well, yeah, I mean, you would want to service them in theory.
They get replaced, but they never take them down. They go to another area. They're always standing up there, rotting and rusting. Go to places in California. Take a look
Oh,
at
you mean unlike oil rigs? Really? Do we want to talk about dead oil rigs in the country? What are you talking about?
Springs, California. It's like a
I
junkyard.
used to live there.
It's like a junkyard. You know what I'm talking
They're
about.
all
Yeah,
over.
yeah, they're everywhere. I mean, obviously, you try to drive in Los Angeles, but there's like fallen over windmills just everywhere, just millions of dead birds, and everybody's got cancer.
All over. Everyone's a different size, a different color, a different
And that
manufacturer,
area
and
doesn't
they're all
get that
close.
energy, by the way. That area doesn't receive that energy.
It doesn't
the
get
people
it.
that own those windmills, they ship that energy to different parts of California. That area that has to look at them
That has to look at them. You mean the people in the middle of nowhere?
the energy. You talked on this.
It
I got
is
it.
really amazing.
Hold on. Wind farms. Let's see. They're all different sizes. It's just gross. Let's see. How many wind farms? Let's see. 5,534. Let's see, wind power in California, wind energy in California. Let's look at some images, shall we? Come on. Ew. Gross. Look at that. They're all different. Well, they're all different kinds of white. Look at the rainbows behind those. It's just ridiculous. And then California offshore wind farm bring the Pacific coast. Look at that. It's gross. These things. And the offshore wind farm. Look at that. Terrible. Look at them. They're all different sizes, except they aren't. Look at this guy. Spreading rapidly. Offshore wind farms, a new thing. Ew. Look at look at this. This is gross. Palm Springs iconic wind farm. Let's see. Could what? Could change dramatically. Let's see what the say. Okay. They may look a lot different in the future. Oh yeah. Let's see. Different types of wind turbines in the San Gorgonio Pass. Okay. They try to do some sort of older and newer wind turbines produce energy on a windy day. And so there's old ones, and then there's the new ones, and the smaller ones, and the bigger ones. And aging Palm Spring wind turbines could be replaced by bigger ones. What? Why? No, that's not what happens. After they stop working, you just leave them there to rot and rust. Replaced. What kind of an asshole? Wind farms were eyesores, then icons. That's not true. I mean, look at all these mapping the wind farms. Year online, 1983, 1985, 2003, 81, unknown megawatts. Look at this. 1985. Gotta go back in time. 2002. Noble's company built the area's first wind farm in 1982, putting up 212 turbines on a plot of land he owned. Oh, and he owned it. North of the Interstate 10 and west of the Indian Canyon Drive. Over the next decade, energy developers built more than 4,000 wind turbines in the San Gorgonio Pass. Gorgonio. Look at that filth. You can't see the dirt. Just sick. And then, of course, killing birds, giving everybody cancer.
It's a very expensive energy. You know, we have natural gas, which is very clean. It costs us nothing. When you see those big plumes of fire, we're throwing it away. We're getting rid of it.
When you see those big plumes of fire, we're throwing it away. We're getting rid of it.
We have natural gas for nothing, and it's powerful. And then you look at these windmills that are all made in Germany and China, almost all of them in China, but a lot of them in Germany. And when you look at these massive things, they kill the birds, they destroy the landscape, destroy it. And people, you know, they're machines, they burn out.
By the way, let's see. Birds killed by windmills versus house cats, I think is the status. Let's see. Wind turbines aren't killing all the birds. Cats are, little fuckers. Wind turbines killed about 234,000 birds last year, whereas cats killed 2.4 billion. Just, yeah. Yeah, but at least cats don't give you cancer. Or do they?
And nobody takes them down. And what you're doing to our oceans, even our fish, I mean, you know, you can go to the step where it really creates a lot of havoc down there, right, which makes sense with the vibration and everything else. So you take a look at windmill. It's very expensive and ugly. Solar is pretty good, but it also takes large, vast numbers of acres. You know, if you ever look at these solar farms, right, and it's a weak energy by comparison to what we already have.
And aren't we getting most of the technology from China? Or
we get the technology, we get the panels from China. Right. We get most solar panels from China. So they love it. No, they don't.
Do they? Mm-hmm. Let's see. American Solar Panel Company. Mm-hmm. What are the top companies making solar panels in the United States of America? Auxin Solar, Certainteed Solar, First Solar, Global Solar, Green Brilliance, Lumos, Prism, and Seraphim Solar, top 10 manufacturers of energy. Sage, who makes solar panels in the United States. Overall, we found 3 manufacturers making high-quality American-made solar panels: Mission Solar, Solar Tech Universal, and Tesla Panasonic. They partner up to make them. Best solar panels made in America, in the USA in 2021. The best ones. Our findings: we recommend Mission Solar. They're durable. Solar Tech Universal and Tesla Panasonic. Those are the smartest ones. There you go. Okay, fine. Nobody makes them in the United States, and you can't. It's not like you can ask.
You know, they open up coal plants every week. They open up a new plant. You know that. China's opening up a coal plant every single week. And
No. Let's see. Chinese pollution. Let's see. Coal. Let's just try it. Where is it? Whoops. This is from American Progress, so he probably won't believe it. And it's also partially bullshit, but there you go. Everything you think you know about coal in China is wrong. Chinese energy markets send mixed signals about the nation's policy intentions and emissions trajectory. Renewable energy analysts tend to focus on China's massive renewable expansion and view the nation as a global clean energy leader. Coal proponents, climate skeptics are more likely to focus on the number of coal plants in China. Brought a group of energy experts to China to find out what's really happening. Visited multiple coal facilities, including coal liquids plant, went to nearly 200 meters down on one of China's largest coal mines to interview engineers, plant managers. Like, I'm sure they told you the absolute truth. Let's see. China's new coal-fired plants are cleaner than anything operating in the United States. China's emission standard for conventional air pollutants from coal-fired plants are stricter than the comparable U.S. standards. Demand for coal-fired power is falling so quickly that China that the nation cannot support its existing fleet, which is, again, something they told them. I don't buy it personally, but yeah, they're not building one a week is the point.
go back into the Paris Accord, which is the supposedly climate accord, costs us $1 trillion.
It's not supposedly. It's actually called the Paris Climate Accord. And the reason is because it's a climate accord.
No, it's going to cost us way more than $1 trillion. China's not included for another 15 years. Russia's included in the dirtiest year, mid-1990s, the dirtiest year. That was where they have to go by. And we have to suffer with the highest standard ever.
All of it optional. We've read the entire thing on the air on this show.
We're not the polluters. You know, when you look at the Pacific Ocean and all the junk that's pouring in from Asia, comes in from Asia, comes in from China, Japan, and it comes in from India. And
Yeah, but since we can't stop them from doing stuff, the rest of us have to do the best we can because we have to breathe the air and drink the water. What? I don't understand the reasoning here. Does anybody know what the fuck he's talking about in terms of, well, I mean, ultimately, like, why would we even bother? It's just ridiculous. Hold on.
and you know where it lands? On the beaches of Los Angeles.
Right.
Okay? And we don't say anything about it. Nobody even knows about it. But it comes in so much.
Nobody even knows about it. They don't even know. It comes in so often that nobody's even said anything.
It's almost impossible to get rid of, but nobody says anything. And then we're supposed to sign the Paris Climate Accord. It's hard to believe our country, well, we owe $32 trillion very soon. So, you know, it's not a question like surviving. We own $32 trillion. And these other countries laugh at us. But I ended the climate accord, the Paris Climate Accord.
No. You paused it.
I thought that was going to be a bad day. I said, oh, I'm going to get killed. You know what? The people loved it. They loved it. And
Well, your supporters, because they're dumb.
very unhappy that we're back into it, because what it represents is really a partial destruction of our country.
Well, we were already doing.
Why? Why is an optional agreement with other countries to cut emissions the partial destruction of our country? Why? I have yet to hear him bother to explain.
clean energy in this country. And as you just said,
Absolutely.
massive Indonesian countries don't keep the same standards. They're the ones polluting, not us.
Massive Indonesian countries?
We have to be
You know
the good guy. We're already being the good guy.
You know what they use as their garbage can, right? The ocean.
Ocean, yeah. You touched on it briefly.
Right. So we don't want to use the ocean as our garbage can and make it worse because we need the food and we need the water and we need them to be healthy.
We
Honestly,
didn't say it by name, but we got to talk about the Green New Deal and this $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation, the 1.2 infrastructure. You look at what Biden talked about.
Oh, you mean the infrastructure bill that Biden got passed through the Senate and that will pass the House? You mean that one? That it's finally infrastructure week for real?
It sounds like he's jumping on the bandwagon with the AOC types, right? The radical left. I mean, talking about changing these buildings out and going fully electric in 9 years, 2030.
You believe that?
We won't have the infrastructure with the charging
much
stations.
smaller
We can't even
windows.
do this. What that's going to cost the American taxpayer?
That's right.
I don't know. What did it cost the American taxpayer to shore up the oil industry so that we had gas stations all over the goddamn country? Because we paid for that. We did. We subsidized oil and gas in this country so that we could get gas stations everywhere so that people could drive all the way across the country. We did that. The U.S. taxpayer. So how is this different? Are we supposed to stick to the old system because we're just going to live off our grandparents' taxes? I mean, what are we, Trump?
Do this.
Buildings with no windows, if that's possible. Okay, let's build a building. How do you think I'd do building a building with no windows? Gee, there's Central Park. Boom. But you can't see it anymore. Okay, no, the whole thing is crazy.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy to assume that they want to build buildings with no windows.
Stop some of it. You know, they had the cows in there. We're going to get rid of all cattle, all cows, everything.
No, we're not no one's proposing getting rid of all cows and cattle and everything.
Because people are going to be next
Theyre.
based on everything, right? But they stopped.
Oh, but people are next. I see. This is the slippery slope. We're going to get rid of cows and then humans. Because in Trump's brain and in Dan Balls' brain, humans and cattle, is there really a difference?
Easiest thing, designed by a young woman that knows nothing about the environment, but
Well, not as much as you. I mean, obviously, she doesn't know about, windmills and cancer.
She'd make it a good old fashioned
Schumer's
bartender, right?
petrified because Schumer thinks she's going to run for the Senate from New York, and she'd win. If she ran, she'd win. And Schumer doesn't want that to happen.
Right.
So Schumer's all in on this stuff. And it'll probably happen anyway. It's going to be very interesting to see.
Where's that whole storyline about how the rhinos are terrible, but the Democrats always stick together? Doesn't quite work in this instance, but whatever.
They're fighting from within, and the sort of middle of the road Democrats are conceding on everything. They're conceding on.
Whatever happened to the Kennedy Democrats? I had on RFK Jr. the other day.
They might be there, but they don't.
I had on RFK Jr. the other day. Oh, you mean anti-vaxxer RFK Jr.?
Conversation, and I said,
Yeah, you had him on because he's middle of the road.
what happened to the folks that your uncle and your dad, they would reach across the aisle. They could speak with Republicans back in the 60s, 70s, even 80s. Reagan worked with Democrats.
And you guys, I think it might have had something to do with you telling everybody that, like, the middle of the road Democrats are baby eaters.
Get
What
20,
happened to those
25% of
Democrats?
the other vote. Both ways. We go both ways. And they'd go out to dinner. I heard stories where they were best friends, a Republican congressman's best friends with a Democrat
Thanks, Al Power. What's next? Soylent Green? Right.
congressman, and they go out to dinner and everything else. And then they'd fight a little bit. But they get along, and you'd have
Thanks,
a lot
Thomas.
of mixed votes, right?
Right.
Now, like the impeachment hoax, 100% of the Democrats voted to impeach. 100% of the Republicans voted not to impeach. But they had a few more votes because they had a majority.
Because more Americans voted for them.
I think it's going to change very rapidly, I have to tell you. I think the majority, I think that they're doing so bad. And, I thought the wall was the most incompetent thing I've ever seen. The wall looks like genius now, meaning the southern border.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant your wall just sucked. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Finally, we had something to agree on. Your wall doesn't work for shit.
To Afghanistan. I think Afghanistan is not.
Is the biggest embarrassment in American history.
irretrievable. I don't think you can ever come back.
No, it's lost.
No, I don't mean even there. I mean politically.
Oh, politically.
I think it's so bad politically what
Oh, yeah. Keep believing that.
we've done. Leaving people behind, leaving, could be thousands. They have no idea who the Americans are.
Why wouldn't they know? Didn't you have a plan to get everybody out easily and quietly and orderly? Do you not know? Maybe you could call them, tell them where the other Americans that didn't want to leave but now decided to leave, that didn't work on the process but finally decided, were told in April to leave but decided over the last couple of weeks to try and barge in, and the people who had made arrangement for weeks.
Giving the list of all Americans to the Afghans, who are our enemy. You know, I dealt very well with the people when I was dealing with them, very, very well. But they are our enemies. Giving them a list of the Americans.
You mean
that's
the Taliban?
Almost like, at a minimum, it's going to be harsh, but it could be a death sentence. But
it wasn't. At a minimum, they got through. At a maximum, they got through. They got through. The lists and the groups that they were talking about all made it through. The people who weren't on a list because they weren't sure if they were leaving or not, those folks are the ones that are stuck because they never made a plan to leave, even though they were told to evacuate in April and that it was coming to an end, and they knew the date May 1st was coming up, and they have reason to believe that they were going to, stick around forever because we heard about these deadlines for a long time. They were probably shocked that Biden actually followed through.
an idiot in our government, and we should find out who that person
Hype
is.
train. Thanks, everybody on Twitch.
Yes. Can
So
someone
that-
please pay? Be charged with treason. Be sent to Leavenworth.
Or just pure stupidity and fire the person. You know, I don't know. Treason would be like they want to have the people. I think they're just stupid people. I really do. I think they just gave them a list of every American in Afghanistan.
They did not give them a list of every American in Afghanistan. Nobody's even alleging that actually happened except you. You don't even know. You just finished saying they don't know how many Americans were in Afghanistan, and then they don't know who they are. They don't know where they are, but they managed to give them a list, give a list of who they are and where they are to the Taliban. Do you even play this tape back for yourself later? And you'll go, I like this guy. He's very good.
And we know that the Taliban, maybe not Abdul or the leaders, but we know ground troops with.
Yeah, not Abdul or the leaders. They're all good. They're trustworthy, because if they were the ones who actually ordered the deaths of people, it might have been wrong to deal with them last year.
Have discussions with ISIS-K. I've talked with soldiers that were over there that say, oh, I would have one of the guys in the Afghan army I'm supposed to be training, and he would go over here and text somebody from the Taliban or ISIS and tell them what we were doing. They can't be trusted.
Right. That's why we stopped giving them intelligence and why we pulled our soldiers out of those bases. Level 3 hype train. Thanks, guys. Look at that. Twitch.tv/Al Sparks.
Well, you'd have all the shootings where the sergeant is teaching them how to do their
Get
thing.
shot in
They
the
go, green on blue, blue on green. And what happens is they get the gun finally. They've been trained, and he takes the gun, starts shooting Americans.
Yes.
And we've never had that
What?
that we have in Afghanistan. Because we've been involved in that whole thing before with other countries. We've never had anything like it where so many people turned the guns on us. And, they were among the highest paid
So we would have stayed in there. Why?
in the world. And I remember Mattis, world's most overrated general. He came in and he told me, sir, they're fighting and they're fighting hard. I said, General, we're paying them a fortune to fight. What's going to happen when we don't? Sir, they're fighting for their country.
They're not like
We're led, I'm telling you, Dan, we're
By
led.
the way, that was the first year. And if you'll recall, yesterday, I played the speech from 2017 where Trump explained why we were going to stay in Afghanistan and why it was conditions-based, which led to him staying in the entirety of his presidency, led him to saying in this very episode that he would, that May 1st didn't mean shit, and that the drawdown would take a year, maybe 2, and the idea that we would have ever fucking left, we punted and stayed in forever. It was always just 3, 5, 10 more months.
by a bunch of fools.
We're at level 3, halfway through the level 3 hype train. All right.
Our country has never been at a lower point, and we're no longer respected by anybody, including
Well, I mean, they're certainly looking at our stock market and envious.
countries that used to love us. We're led by fools.
That makes me
by
sick.
stupid people.
Makes me sick. I mean, they don't respect us anymore, except they do.
We were just talking about old school Kennedy Democrats and when the two parties could find some common ground or something. I'd like to talk to you
or something.
about the party that we belong to and the Republican Party today.
Sorry, what party is that? I'm not familiar. I thought the Republican Party, didn't it stop existing years ago?
Versus the America First movement. You have a lot of governors and new young freshman congressmen and women who are on the MAGA and America First train, and they seem to be butting a lot of heads with some of these old school Republicans. Where do you see that ending? Should we try to bring them into the fray or convince them, or should these...
Into the fray? You mean into the fold?
We want to call them older rhinos that want to just stay establishment. Do they need to get kicked to the curb?
I think you got to fight the establishment and the rhinos with everything you got. I mean, I would save your time attacking Democrats because it's not going to go anywhere. Because obviously we're importing voters left and right, so there's no way that that you're gonna not. Oh, look at that hype train getting to level 3. I wouldn't fight Democrats at all. I would just go after the rhinos that are in there. Make sure that that's the real enemy. You guys shouldn't even. I don't even know why you would expect
a room that sees a lot of people coming here and in Palm Beach, etc., where they come in and they want my endorsement because the endorsement represents something very important. It's America First. It's Make America Great Again, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, whatever you want to say. I'm not attached to either of these labels. And
people that have been there for a long time will be beaten and have been beaten by people that just started in politics because one's for Trump and America First and the other one is not for America First. They're rhinos. Guys like Romney. If Romney ran right now, or little Ben Sass, if a guy like Ben Sass,
yesterday we literally played a clip where he was saying that Romney would make a good president.
Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz came to me and they said, could you give Ben Sass an endorsement? I said, I don't like him. I don't like what he's saying.
I don't like him. I don't approve of him. I don't like what he's saying, but sure.
Sass came over, dropped to his knees. That guy practically dropped to his knees, begged me for the...
Practically?
I gave him an endorsement, which I shouldn't have done, in Nebraska. I did well in Nebraska, won Nebraska, and a day later...
Was he kneeling the whole time, or...
After he won the election, then I think somebody could have beaten him. There was a case. It was a good lesson for me. I think somebody would have beaten Ben Sass. He's a zero, nothing. I actually don't even know if he loves our country because the things he does are so stupid. But
yeah, Republicans, any establishment Republican, you pretty much guarantee they don't love our country. I would go after those folks right away.
Somebody would have beaten him. The day after he wins, he starts hitting me because I want to bring troops out of Germany because Germany is screwing us on economics and on the military. And I said, I want to bring troops out. We have 52,000 soldiers. I want to reduce it to 25, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and that won't affect our relationship with Russia at all. It won't make them feel a lot better.
Save hundreds of billions of dollars, okay?
Yeah, it won't cost us anything if Russia takes over Europe.
It really takes advantage of us. China's bad, but the European Union treats us almost as badly as China.
Yeah, but they never attacked us with a bioweapon that the current president at that time allowed to kill over 500,000 Americans. If you believe that, the story about what China did.
Realize that. Yeah. But guys like Romney, if Romney ran right now in Utah,
he would win again.
Like a dog catcher.
No, he'd be smoked.
But the problem is we have them for another 3 years. So
Let's talk about those elections, because I've had a lot of candidates that come on my program and on the network.
Yeah.
And of course, they are wanting the Trump endorsement. So I will ask you, Mr. President, how does that work? How do you, when you're looking at someone, what's the criteria and how do you set it up where you will endorse a candidate? And the second part of that question would be,
It works really good. My people tell me they're a shoo-in and that they will absolutely win, and then I say sure, because I don't want to ruin my record. It has nothing to do with whether or not his endorsement works, but if that person is a guaranteed win, that's why he gets pissed when his people lie to him.
what would your advice be to the regular average American who's thinking,
Yeah, the average American, or in your case, in deference to your followers, the below average American.
I need to get involved. I want to run for office?
So as far as running, it is America.
Well, that was an edit.
I mean, I see some of these people, it's like, what are they doing? I guess maybe if you go back 100 years when we had these massive, we had no income tax and we had massive tariffs because we were smart. We had to, in the 1880s, when a country wanted to come in and take money from the United States, they could, but they had to pay tariffs. We became so rich. They had the great tariff debate of 1888. You know what the debate was? Where do we spend all our money? They had no idea. Then they went to income tax and a lot of crazy things happened.
Yeah, no one else was making anything on our scale at all.
Years, but our country was so great. We had so much money.
Yeah, so much better than, especially like before women could vote.
Run so well, and now when you look at these fools with this tax policy, where you're allowing other countries to just come in and rip off the United States of America. So when people, like a guy named Toomey in Pennsylvania, if I want to tax China because they're killing us on trade, so I want to put a tax or a tariff on China, Toomey would say, sir,
yeah, tax, tariff, tax. There's really no difference.
Free market. I said, what's not free market? They're killing us. They're tariffing us. If they're tariffing us 100%.
Tariffing us.
Can we tariff them 100%? No, sir. It's not free market. Explain it. Why? Explain it. Okay. They couldn't explain it. He couldn't explain it. But he's getting out. You know why? Because I wouldn't give him my endorsement. It's very simple. And he would have lost in Pennsylvania, a state that I won by a lot, by the way.
right, do you
No, you lost. You lost handily.
believe in term limits for Congress, members of Congress?
So I always view.
Uh-huh.
I like term limits in one ways, but I will say this. You know what a term limit is? If you had a proper government with a fair press, a term limit is an election. It's an election. The reason you have these guys hanging around so long is they control the media. The media
Yeah, guys like Mitch McConnell and maybe people like Strom Thurmond who sit in there for a long time. Yeah.
controls them. Because the concept of term limit is...
By the way, this is so fucking tiring. I'm bored to tears with this asshole. He's got 3 minutes left of this interview. I hope this is the last. I hope there's not a part 6. Jesus.
artificial. The term limit should be the election, but I'm okay with term limits.
You hit media.
Yeah, so yes and no. I'm against it, but I'm also for it. I'm okay with it, but I'm not going to do it. But
I would love to hit the media. This is something I've been doing for 27 years. I did local television, and I always wanted to get...
Yeah, and then it was all downhill from there. I did local television, and then I ended up on OAN.
a network. And then over the past few years, and especially when you announced your candidacy, I started watching what the CNNs, the MSNBCs of the world were doing. The national...
Yeah, where they actually have, the big money.
media, how they treated you and your family. And to me, it was grotesque. Why do you think that the media, and we've known for decades, they've always been biased to the left. There's been studies done. It's 98% of them are biased to the left. Why do you think...
Or you consider facts and reality left might be part of the problem.
Attacked you so hard and gone after you in that manner like no other president before?
Like nobody...
Well, I mean, have you seen all the president's men?
ever seen, and protect Biden.
By the way, have you seen any of the newspapers from, say, 1888 that he was just talking about the presidency?
The new thing on Afghanistan is he's taken us out.
Yes.
No, we could have taken...
Yes. Out. Yes, he has taken us out.
We could have gone out with great dignity and with saving lives and everything else. Nothing to do with it, but they're trying to protect him on that. When he fell up the stairs, he actually was falling up the stairs.
By the way, you could have gotten us out, according to you. Why didn't you? Yeah, don't forget to smash the like. We're 15 away from 666 likes. Thumbs up, everybody. It's right there. Just right down there somewhere.
It was not on any program. If that would have been me, it would have been the biggest story.
Yeah, he had a broken foot earlier, and he had just taken off the boot, and he slipped. Yeah, I'm okay. He didn't fall and land on his head. He's not doing press conferences with bandages on his head, and his teeth aren't slipping out while he's talking, going,
Months, it would have been like career ending. It was never on the media. It was never on.
Who gives a fuck? And then is he going to talk about the ramp next?
The mainstream media. His trip. It's okay. You can trip. Gerald Ford tripped. By the way, he never lived it down. In fact, I would go very carefully down those stairs. I don't want to trip because you just don't live it down with these people. With him, they never
With these people.
put it on. Two things. Why do they protect them? And with Biden, there's nothing to protect. The people get it. Ultimately, the people get it. I got 75 million votes. I had the media totally against me. I mean, outside of yourself and a few other, I had the media against me, right? As much as anybody.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was, hundreds of thousands of Americans dying at the time. People tend to frown on that.
Ever seen. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. I had the vicious Democrats, communists, socialists, call them whatever the hell they are.
They're Democrats, most of them. None of them, are truly communists or socialists, really. Even the ones that call themselves democratic socialists aren't.
They'll impeach you if you sneeze, and just
yeah, no one's been impeached for a sneeze. That hasn't happened yet. Although if you sneeze on someone and you're not wearing a mask and you're carrying a deadly disease and you blow it off, and then when they catch it, you tell them to take horse paste, that might be impeachable going forward.
Vicious what they do, and I had big tech against me, and I was told you can't win. I got 70. You can't win if you have big tech. I got 75 million votes, more than any sitting president.
So maybe, quote unquote, big tech wasn't against you.
He didn't get 81 million votes. There's no way he got 81.
Yeah, he got 81 plus. I actually think he got more. I think a lot of the ones that you're saying that were flipped weren't, and that you actually tried to buy some votes and it was a failure. So those are fake votes and they should go to Biden.
Come into Arizona and we'd have 45,000 people at a rally. He'd come into Arizona and he'd have 8 circles and he couldn't fill them. He had to ask the press. He didn't ask the press because he couldn't do that. He wouldn't know how. But the press would be asked to fill the circles, please, because they had no people.
And I also don't know, what does he need? Why wouldn't Biden be able to tell people where to stand? It's so weird. It's so petty and small and weak, and what a delicate fucking ego you have to be that concerned about it.
And I'm upset in Arizona, and Fox called it early when I was leading big. What did Fox know to do that?
You weren't leading big, and what they knew was you were losing.
Before we wrap things up here, I want to give a big thank you to not only President Donald J. Trump, but also his entire staff here.
Wait, you didn't say goodbye? Before we wrap things up, shit, don't tell me there's a part 4, 3, 2, 1. Earth below us, drifting, falling. President Donald Trump, Incredible Genius, Part 1. That we might have to look into that in a future show, because this is the best picture of Dan Balls you could actually find. I think nothing sums up Dan Balls' career better than this picture. Yes, it's balls out. That's how he signs off on his show. Balls out.